Are you here, Professor? Yes, I am here. Can you hear me? I already shared my screen. Yes, we can hear you and we can see your screen. So we get the agreement and consent of other speakers, other panelists. We know that your class is also an important class that you cannot miss. Please go ahead. Okay, thank you. I think you can see my slides in full screen mode. Yes, we can. Okay, let me make some adjustments.
Öbür şeyde niye çalışmıyor?
I don't know, something is not working over here, but I think I will be able to sort it out. Okay, it's done. Let me start. Selamun alaikum. I also start my chronometer. I hope I will be able to keep loyal and stick to my time. Let me so distinguished commander, the president of ASSAM and distinguished team members. I would like to extend my best regards very quickly and start with my presentation right away. As you can see, the title of my presentation is the Internal Security Organization in the Ottoman State and some recommendations for today. In fact, apart from the police and gendarmerie, I'm going to talk about other units because the police and gendarmerie are already the units, the law enforcement units that we have. But I will be talking about some original, unique security units of the Ottoman. So I'll be talking about some unique security organization practices in the Ottoman state. And we are going to make some inferences for today's world. And then I will complete and conclude my presentation. As you know, the Ottoman state was there and existed for 623 years, and it had a surface area of 5.2 million square kilometers. In fact, it was a long chain of centuries, a very wide surface area. It means that it had many different administrative and security practices in different countries and subunits, and it set many different examples, just like Derbent, Matrolos, Menzilkesh, or the countryside border units. I will be talking about these different units. Internal security has always been a trouble for all the states, and you cannot exclude the Ottoman state from this role. So the internal policies, their functioning was different in Istanbul, the capital, and in the other cities of this empire. So there is the classic period, and there is also the post-classic period for the security issues in the Ottoman. As you know, in the US, there is a separate department for the internal security, but here in Turkey, we don't have it. Maybe because of the absence of this department or ministry. In fact, there is this the absence of such a unit handling with these topics. That is why we have been dealing with the PYD, YPG, and other similar terrorist organizations. In fact, in time we were able to handle these issues, but there have been many serious problems in the community. I don't know what will come next. Nobody knows what will come next, but there is something significant here. That is, there is this continuous internal security threat, and our state and all other Islamic states have to be agile and vigilant in the face of the internal security threats. Security is always the most important matter because in the hierarchy, first there are the physiological needs of the people, and then the security need comes. So after this introduction, I will be talking about internal security, the internal security practices in the Ottoman, the Reformation period, pre and post-Reformation period, because it's an important turning point in the Ottoman Empire. And then I'll be talking about some unique practices of the Ottoman in ensuring internal security. There are various practices that I will be talking about. In fact, in the establishment of internal security, some systematic and hierarchical practices of the Ottoman can be seen, and in fact all these have been successful for a long time. The Janissaries were the first of their kind. Asakiri Mansuri Muhammediye army. In fact, the Janissaries have been a strong and powerful army for the Ottoman. During the early years of the Ottoman and during the rise of the empire, they used some different systems, and these systems, in fact, dated back from the Karahan, Selçuks, Ghaznès. For example, there was a Subaşı that was an important organization, an important institution, and in the past, Subaşıs used to be responsible for the municipal policing. And then Sancakbey and Kadi and Subaşı, the three actors, were appointed to the newly conquered areas, and they were originally dealing with the public order as well. But later on, when the military organization expanded the Ottoman Empire with the implementation of the new security policies, Subaşıs lost their importance. There were some novelties for the modernization of the Ottoman Empire in the modern ages. In the rural areas, you would fire Subaşıs, but also you would fight the public order security officials as well. Especially after the reformation and reorganization period, there were more efforts in order to have these multiple structures. Kavas is an important and another organization. In the past, they didn't. They had different names, and one name was Sergeant, and with the Janissaries, they started to exist. And according to historians, Yıldırım Beyazıt was the sultan who established this organization. The Hafiye, the Inspectors organization, is another organization that was responsible in order to follow the covered policing works. In fact, some male and female officers were there in the inspectors organization, and they were chosen according to certain qualifications and requirements. They were mostly in charge of detaining and arresting the thieves. And in fact, some pickpocketers and also some individuals with criminal records would be used as informants by this organization. Salma Çuhadar was another officer. They would be mostly undercovered. There would be a certain reporting chain, and according to the crimes, there would be different penalties, but the penalties would be mostly physical. For example, they would cut the ears, and in Turkish we have a proverb. So if someone is seen to be very old and very expert in something, we say that, okay, his ear was cut in the past. That is how the proverb originates. Tahari is another public servant. They were in the service of the governors. They were also working in the bazaars and markets. They were just checking the honest trading practices of the traders. Direct municipal policing was helped by many different units, and one unit was the night watches, night guards. ASSAM and PASBAN were the two names. ASSAM originated from the Janissary, and PASBAN reported to the Subaşı, and Shakir was a third one, and they were reporting to the Ottoman palace. The viziers and statesmen were also protected and guarded by these people, and when they were assigned to the emperor's office, in fact, they were also acting as a messenger. They had their own teams and squads. They were also in relation with the supervisors of different units. Internal security organizations in the Ottoman was based on establishing the new units rather than rehabilitating the existing units. That was a trend until Selim III. As you know, there came the Nizami Cedid. After the fall of Selim II, the Nizami Cedid just collapsed and was scattered and abolished. It took a very short time of effect, and And then Asakir Mansuri Muhammadiye, the new army was established with Mahmud II, and then came the Tanzimat Ferman in 1839. That was the Declaration of Reformation. It started a new era, and a gendarmerie organization for the first time was founded. In fact, the necessary grounds were laid for the first time with the Reformation. Its rise was in Europe first, and then this concept was important to the Ottoman. In 1869, Asakiri Zaptiye, the gendarmerie organization law was issued. In 1845, the police organization was established.
İçindeki askeri sistem böylece oluşturulmuş oluyor idi. Daha sonra da zaptiye bu şekilde, ama çok gittik.
Had a multi-partite organization.
Evet, herhalde takılı kaldı.
I'm sorry, sometimes my slides seem to be stuck.
Osmanlı Devleti'ndeki bu şekildeki, yani modernleşme çabalarına baktığımızda,
Let's look at the modernization efforts in the Ottoman era. And as I was just talking about, and as I was just summarizing, there were different stages: establishment of Asakir Zaptiye, Vakaya, Hayriye, incident and abolishment of the Janissaries. But now I would like to talk about some unique practices of internal security in the Ottoman. Let me start with the Redif organization. These are different unions. Mahmud II established this in 1834 for internal security in the rural parts of the country. In fact, this is not directly responsible to ensure security. However, these are the units under the army, and they were functioning the security role of the army in the countryside, because Redif soldiers would be randomly chosen from among the people. They would serve 5 years in the army, and then they acted as a spare army, a reserve army. During the peace, they were responsible for protecting the country, the territory, and the people. Başı Bozuk is a group of people. In fact, starting with the pre-reformation, these groups started to appear because, apart from the Redif Reserve Army, the empire wanted to make use of the civil people, and at different times of the year, their services would be used by the state. And unfortunately, later on, that turned into something different, because the Başı Bozuk groups, the random groups, were recruited from among the people randomly, and they turned out to be a problem for the state. These were irregular forces and the militia. They started to impose levies on the public randomly. Kırserdar is a name, and it means the countryside watchman. And in fact, you can see the pictures of these soldiers. In fact, they were a counter force against the irregular militia, or the terrorists on the mountains. That is guerrilla and counter-guerrilla equation. So for some time, they used the Başı Bozuk groups in order to chase the guerrillas. But then, Başı Bozuk groups turned out to be a problem. Then Ottoman state wanted to try different methods. In the Western Anatolia, Başı Bozuk groups were called Zeybek. This word in Turkish. These are the people mostly living on the mountainous areas, and these are paid soldiers that are responsible for protection and guarding. Until the fall of Ottoman, they happen to be the main character in many positive and negative incidents. So the transition from the guerrilla to the countryside watchman happened with the parole coming from the state. In fact, those were allowed by the state to act as watchmen in the mountainous areas of the country. The guards and rangers, these are mostly old janissaries. They didn't retire, but they would be used for different functions. Today we have rangers, but those rangers and our rangers, in fact, play different functions. Martellos. Martellos first started to be used as a spy, but you know, there were different functions and connotations added to this word, and these include so the messengers or a ship captain, but their main function was always spying and messengering. Mostly they were Christian soldiers. Later on, some Turkish soldiers were found to be functioning as martellos as well. In addition to the security roles, they were also checking the roads. I know all these topics are very long, but I cannot go on talking about them in an elaborated manner because of my time limits. Now, I would like to talk about derbands before I conclude. Derband is road crossing point security organization. They also work for maintenance of the roads, repair of the roads, and if there is a very desolate area, they also make those areas inhabited. In fact, they also had the role of ensuring settlement in abandoned land. Probably they first emerged during Mehmet II, and the military and commercial roads in the Ottoman were secured by these people, derbands. This is just one class. In fact, there were many other classes. There were also the bridge guards. They were playing their functions, and in fact, they would take their share or remuneration through exemption of certain taxes. In the 16th century, mostly, there were different phenomena in the Anatolia, and in fact, these derbands had to leave their villages and the settlements because of these incidents. They were acting as the gendarmerie. They were trying to protect the passageways, crossing points, the roads, and they were helping with the maintenance and repair of the roads. And in fact, they were also helping with the communication and transportation. This organization collapsed because they won their share from the tax in addition to the exemption. Menzilkeş is a different organization.
Mükellefiyet usulüyle menzil civarındaki bir kısım köyler hakkında halkından tayin edilirlerdi. Bunlar menzil akçesi veya menzil imdadiyesi gibi her ailenin varlığına göre para veya para mukabili.
They would be villagers, and in fact, those are the people who are assigned from the local villages, and they would be paid by the families. And in fact, their services would be paid through exemption from certain taxes. Conclusion part. In order to ensure internal and external security, each state assigns some functions, and they have their own organizations. In fact, internally, the violence, terrorism, chemical threats, and there comes some external threats for any state. And after all these exposures, the security policies are shaped accordingly. This is also a reality and truth for Turkey, when Turkey is ensuring its internal and external security. In addition to the historical knowledge coming from the Ottoman, the current socioeconomic conditions are also taken into consideration by the Turkish state when it was building its own security policy. So Ottoman state, in fact, set example for many other states, and in Turkey, for the Republic of Turkiye, it also set an example in the ensuring of internal security in terms of the security policies. And we will keep benefiting from this example in time according to the conditions of the time. Of course, these policies may shift paradigms because of the conjuncture. For example, in Istanbul, in different provinces of the Ottoman, in fact, we see some strong security organization. The security was ensured, but then, you know, the territory was very vast. I think 74, 75 states were just founded in in the previously Ottoman land. You said that is a great diversity of nationalities, and the Ottomans had to administer all these nationalities. So it has to be admired, you know, how long they were able to administer such a great variety of nationalities, and they kept in power, they remained in power for a long number of years. It is admirable. Markalos, the country side watchman
Bahsettiğimiz konu
branches.
askerlerin de yine bu konuda
I was talking about different organizations, and you know, sometimes they employed retired soldiers. That employment of retired soldiers, recruitment of retired soldiers, or could be an example for the Turkish Republic. And however, during the fall of the Ottoman Empire, we see there were reformation efforts. The Ottomans tried to withstand the effects of time, but they were successful only to a certain extent. Internal security organizations, in fact, were strong in the Ottoman, and that was what helped Ottoman to reign for such a long series of years. Thank you very much. I think I exceeded my time by 5 minutes, but I'm sorry, Mr. Chair and distinguished panelists. I'm sorry for that. Well, thank you very much, Professor Cengiz. I was also keeping an eye on the clock. Yes, you exceeded your time by 5 minutes, but it was flowing very fluently. I don't want to intervene. Well, thank you very much for your speech about the internal security organizations in the Ottoman. There were different names, there were different types of organizations, but in each period of the state, you know, there were problems. This is the case for all the states. You know, what the Japanese scholar says. In fact, the black stones can be seen by everyone, but it's important to see the white stones, or the same analogy can be made with hair. You know, dark hair can be seen by everyone. What about the white hair? This is internal security. Now, I would like to proceed with the second speaker, Ahmet Özdal, Associate Professor. He will be talking about the public order problems in the medieval Islamic cities and some measures for security. Please be careful with time. I extend my best regards to everyone. Do you hear me properly? Yeah, we can hear you very well. Please go on. Thank you very much. I will talk about the public order problems in the medieval Islamic cities, and I'll be talking about some security measures taken then. That will be the topic of my presentation. First, let me provide you some introduction and set the perspective for the public order problems. You know, external threats can be originating from human factors, just like looting and invasion, but there may be some natural disasters acting as a factor, for example, flood, aridity, etc. And in the town centers, there can be some overall chaos, or independent of all this, there can be other public order problems. These are all the factors affecting the people, and the community may lose their culture of coexistence and their security in terms of